Recitative. You already know a great deal about the recitative, but you have not been told yet that there are in fact two different types of recitatives. The reason that we haven't considered this earlier is that in the excerpts from operas that we heard, only one type of recitative was used, so there was no need to make a distinction between the two of them. Since we are about to hear a composition that uses both types of recitative in juxtaposition with each other, it is necessary now to make that distinction. It is very easy to tell the differences between these two kinds of recitatives. Certainly when you hear them, one sounds quite a bit different from the other, but we need to know exactly how they are different from each other. So I'm going to ask you to create a table that will allow you to show the points of comparison between these two types of recitative, beginning with the name and the literal meaning of each type, the type of accompaniment used for each type, and the character that you can observe in each of these two types. Let's begin by taking a look at the name and the literal meaning of each type. Now the first type is called recitativo secco. Before we examine this any further, let me remind you that this is a two-word phrase from a Romance language, and it's one of those phrases that if you take the two words and you invert them, it's actually easier for you to define them. Now you don't need me to provide you with a definition for the word recitativo. It looks very much like the word recitative, and in fact our word recitative comes from that word. The other word, however, secco, is one that we need to define. Secco means dry. You may have seen words like this on wine bottles. The French word for dry is sec. So recitativo secco refers to a dry recitative. I'm not certain that you actually need my help to define or to translate recitativo accompagnato. Recitativo, as you already know, means recitative, and accompagnato looks very much like the English word accompanied. So recitativo accompagnato refers to an accompanied recitative. Now, these two types of recitative present us with a very interesting pair of terms. One seems to refer to something that is dry, the other one seems to refer to something that is accompanied. Logically, I suppose you might imagine that if one of them is dry, the other one is not, that if one of them is accompanied, that the other one is not. Well, in fact, both of them refer to the accompaniment used for these types of recitative. So let us take a look at the type of accompaniment that is characteristic of each of them. Recitativo secco uses only basso continuo accompaniment. Basso continuo means continuous bass, and it refers to continuous bass accompaniment. It requires two types of instruments to play it, generally speaking, a low string instrument and some sort of a keyboard instrument. And although the word secco is not a term that allows a precise musical description of something, when you hear this type of accompaniment in comparison to the other type of recitative, you will see why it is thus called recitativo secco or dry recitative. Recitativo accompagnato, however, uses both orchestral and basso continuo accompaniment. So not only basso continuo accompaniment, but the orchestra as well. So clearly, this kind of accompaniment requires far more instruments to perform it than the other type. So there's some obvious difference between the two. You can tell the difference between two instruments, a low string and a keyboard playing together, and a full orchestra playing with this accompaniment. Not only is there a difference between these two types of recitative in the number of instruments that play their accompaniments, but there's a big difference in character between them as well. Let's take a look at this phenomenon. Recitativo secco is decidedly simple in character, and part of this may be due to the fact that it is partly improvised. Both of the instruments involved in playing the accompaniment play the bass line that the composer has provided, and the keyboard instrument improvises a simple accompaniment as well. Recitativo accompagnato, however, is decidedly more complex in character. It is fully composed by the composer, and if the composer has taken the time to write it out for all of the orchestral parts, the chances are very good that he's going to do something with it. So, the accompanied type of recitative is more complex than the dry type of this recitative. Make sure that you know these differences between these two types of recitative. Although you'll have no trouble telling them apart in performance, you need to know the points of comparison between the two when you sit down to prepare for and to take the test for this course.